Hello everyone, back to today's first video. Going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days, or today's first video, which takes around the 12th of December. So 12th of December is day 10. We'll be able to extend out beyond that with the extended GFS and ECM ensembles over around a couple of weeks. And I've got CFSV2 at the end of the video for the next month. That'll take us towards the latter part of December, of course. So we also will have the latest Christmas update coming up for you tonight. That'll be around 7 o'clock tonight. Got the 14th Christmas update coming up then. Busy old weekend of updates at gas levels, of course. Yesterday we released the winter 2019-2020 forecast. Seems to have gone down quite well. So if you haven't caught up the forecast yet, it's at gasservice.com, and also it's on YouTube, of course. I did a live stream between 5 and 6 o'clock yesterday, which seemed to go down pretty well as well, discussing that winter forecast. So have a listen back to that if you wasn't able to listen live. Again, it's embedded into the homepage at Gasservice, and it's also on the YouTube channel. Right then, so I'm going to start off with the CET. So you have the central temperature in for November. If we scroll down here, we can see that it is confirmed now at Hadley to have come in at 6.2. That's an anomaly of 0.3 of a degree below average, set against 61 to 1990. But set against 81 to 2010, which is the more modern average, it actually comes out colder than that. It comes out nearly a degree below average, set against 81 to 2010. And of course, that follows on from October, which was also quite a coldish, but below average anyway, at 10.0. That's an anomaly of over half a degree below average. September was a little bit milder than average. Overall, set against 61 to 1990, this autumn finishes up, I think, just about average, really. Maybe a little bit below, but more or less average, 61 to 1990. But against 81 to 2010, this has probably been a colder than average autumn. That'll be the first time that's happened since 2012, I would have thought. So, quite a chilly autumn. Also, of course, extraordinarily wet. And we're, of course, waiting for all of the UK-wide stats to come in terms of temperature, precipitation anomalies. When they're in, we'll be able to verify the Gasservice autumn forecast, which I can tell you now didn't go very well. But we'll talk more about that when all of the stats come in for November, and also for the autumn itself. So that'll be later on in the week, I suppose. December, off to a cold start, provisional for the 1st of December, standing at 2.4, which is an anomaly of 2.5 degrees below average. That's just for the first day, but yeah, December's off to a cold start, and we probably won't see a recovery in the temperature with the CET until later on in the week, actually. So the next couple of days are going to be quite cold as well, with more night frost coming up. And they're going to get more unsettled too. So these are the GFS and ECMWF 500 millibar height anomaly flowcharts from the Penn State University for the next week to 10 days. We've got the ECMWF on the top, the GFS, which you'll have a look at in a moment, is on the bottom. So 500 millibars is an area in the atmosphere high pressure and low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream. Blue extrapolates to below average heights, which is low pressure, and yellow, orange and red to above average heights, which is high pressure. So we can see it with the ECMWF, we've got this deep trough of below average heights in the week to 10 day time frame, centred over the top of the country, with a ridge of high pressure out in the middle of the Atlantic and going up towards Greenland. And that sends the jet stream southwards, so we're actually going on to the cold side of the jet stream with that. And we're moving the jet southwards. See if we can get the red colour up. We're moving the jet southwards down here. So we're in the trough of low pressure, moving the jet south. That could well be starting to open the door to some colder air to push in from the north in around 10 days' time. It has been a suggestion for some time, but a period around sort of 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, sometime around middle of December, we may get a cold snap from the north. And those hints, anyway, are still there within the model output. The GFS, very similar. This is based on the midnight GFS run. So I'll show you that in a moment. We've got the midnight and the 6 o'clock GFS right now. But the midnight GFS run has a below average heights and trough, again, centred over the UK and much of northern and western Europe. We've got the mid-Atlantic ridge here, with these orange colours going up towards Greenland as well. And what this does, again, it sends the jet stream southwards and potentially opens the door to colder air beginning to push down from the north, and that is what the midnight GFS run did around day 10, which I'm going to show you very shortly. So they're both looking very unsettled in the week to 10 day time frame, and they're both hinting at the chance of colder air pushing in from the north as well. So cold and settled could be the direction we're going in through the second week of December and running up to the middle of the month. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. We're looking at Buxton today. So this is another suggested location for this part of the video. If you'd like to have your local town or city featured within this part of the video, then all you need to do is ask us via our social media accounts, Facebook or Twitter, or you can email us at galsworthins@gmail.com. Or you can ask us through the comments at Galsworthins, either YouTube or website. And we're happy to feature your local town or city within this part of the video. Looking at Buxton today, which of course is the highest town in England. So red line is 30-year upper air temperature average for Buxton. It looks like we're up and down with temperature for the next few days. So we're going to be alternating warmer and colder sectors seemingly. So it's gradually turning more unsettled through the course of the coming week. Quite dry for the next 3 or 4 days, and then by the end of the week, though, it's turning more unsettled. It looks like we have a more definitive drop in temperature as we go into the second week of December. This is the period just here. And then up to the middle of the month. Looks like we go below average there. So a little bit of a drop in the temperature coming up through the second week of December potentially. And at the same time, going more unsettled. Lots of precipitation spikes in there. So going to be plenty of precipitation around. Of course, if it's getting colder around the day 10 time frame and beyond into the middle of the month, it's getting colder, but there's still precipitation, that leads us to suspect there may be a possibility anyway of some snow as we go towards the middle part of December. All very sketchy at the moment, but we will need to keep an eye on this middle part of December period, I think, for potential for something a little bit more wintry perhaps to develop then. Temperature anomalies on the 2nd to the 10th of December, very close to average, actually a little bit above average for central and northern areas. The far south of the country, perhaps a little bit below average. It's not a particularly big deviation either way. Precipitation anomalies from the 2nd to 10th of December, still mainly drier than average in most parts of the country, a bit wet average for the north and west of Scotland. I would expect these charts to trend, these anomaly charts to trend wetter in the days ahead. It's going to be relatively dry until the middle of the week, but I think later in the week, and then particularly through the weekend into next week, it turns increasingly unsettled. So this is that midnight GFS run. So we begin on Thursday. Starting to break down the high pressure. The high pressure is with us now, giving us this cold, dry weather. It's breaking down, though, on Thursday as low pressure is developing to the north and west. By the time we get through to Friday, we're all into Atlantic winds, so it'll be milder. But also, we'll start to bring outbreaks of rain in from off the Atlantic, potentially quite wet and windy actually from Friday into Saturday. Little slight transient bump of high pressure for Saturday itself, but by Sunday in comes the next low pressure rattling through. That's bringing up a bout of wet and windy weather. That one clears away in towards the south of Scandinavia, so southern Norway and Sweden, Denmark, and it starts pulling some strong, yes, up to gale force potentially, winds, and also colder air from the northwest. So that will be bringing in wintry showers for the beginning of next week to northern and west parts of the country, and it does look windy too. The next low then starts to rattle through on Tuesday, the 10th of December. Very unsettled charts, you'll notice. This is running up towards day 10 now, Wednesday the 11th. Low pressure is dominating. But look what happens by day 10, which is Thursday the 12th of December. general election day, of course, this low pressure sort of plunges southeastwards across the country, taking no doubt more heavy rain with it, but it swings the winds into the north. And we're starting to drive down colder air from the north there, so that low pressure clears away. So that is potential for snow in northern parts of the country, actually, for the general election. And let's go beyond that, in towards the middle part of December. It's looking quite cold, actually. Proper northerly winds in here. So we're up to Saturday the 14th of December now, and we do look cold. Would be snow showers for northern and eastern parts of the country. Probably quite significant overnight frost as well. And then the Atlantic has a go at coming back in. This is Monday the 16th of December. That's trying to bring in more rain and slightly milder air from off the Atlantic. Of course, there could be some snow involved with that transition back to milder weather. And then that's how we look at the very end of the GFS run. As far as we can get to today is to Wednesday the 18th of December, just a week before Christmas. We're back into milder conditions, although still looking very unsettled. And the mildest of the air is actually to our south. We are on the cold side of the jet stream still, even there. So it does suggest that next week and up to the middle part of December, there is a chance of some colder weather with the midnight GFS run. This is the 6 o'clock run. This is the very latest as we do in the video. So again, the high pressure is breaking down on Thursday. And then we're going into this more unsettled pattern for the weekend and into next week with low pressure driving in off the Atlantic. This is Monday the 9th, a week's time. Low pressure clears away to the east, turning wind into the north and northwest. That's cold wind, bringing wintry showers into northern and western parts of the country. And then low pressure is back in during the middle of next week. This is Wednesday the 11th, again looking very unsettled, further bouts of heavy rain. You'll notice that for the north, the wind is beginning to swing into the north and the northeast, so that by day 10, which is Thursday the 12th of December, in comes the northerly wind. So that's a cold snap again for the general election. Will bring snow showers to northern and eastern parts of the country, and a cold feel with those northerly winds. Frost and ice would be a bit of a hazard for voters. This time, though, it doesn't develop into like a protracted period of cold weather. So by Friday the 13th, we're already bringing the next low back in from off the Atlantic. So unlike the midnight GFS run, which was more extended with the cold weather, the 6 o'clock GFS run just has it for around 24 hours or so, and then we're back into this push of low pressure from off the Atlantic. Not particularly mild though, even with this. The jet stream is still to our south. We're still bringing in these cold northwesterly winds, which are showery, and tightly backed isobars indicate there could be gale force winds in places as well. That's as far as we get to with the 6 o'clock GFS run, and it's still looking quite cold and unsettled up to Wednesday the 18th of December. This is classic sort of cold zonality type weather, which will probably bring quite a bit of snow actually for the Scottish mountains. Anybody that's planning perhaps a Christmas or Hogmanay trip to the Highlands and to the Scottish ski resorts, you might do quite well actually this year with this sort of cold zonal type pattern. Down in the south you tend to get quite a bit of cold rain out of this. But as we've established, there is a suggestion there, certainly on the midnight GFS run, of a few days of quite cold weather around the middle part of December. This is how the GM is looking. So again, the high pressure is breaking down on Thursday. It's turning more unsettled. By Friday, we're all milder and more unsettled as well, with some wet weather coming in off the Atlantic. Quite tiny back isobars as well at the end of the week, so it will be fairly windy into the weekend. So unsettled conditions continue. A little bit of a bump of high pressure from Saturday into Sunday, but by Sunday itself, low pressure is coming back in off the Atlantic. So very unsettled as we go to the early part of next week, and we keep these areas of low pressure continuing to drive in from off the Atlantic. That's how we're looking at day 10, which is Thursday the 12th of December. Quite cold and unsettled. Excuse me. And then we've got the ECMWF, which is looking again as though we're breaking down the ridge on Thursday. So up to Thursday, England and Wales dry. Scotland will have some rain at times, but by sort of the end of Thursday into Friday, we're all back into unsettled weather. Milder though as the winds are coming in from the southwest into the weekend. Stays unsettled, more low pressure dries in off the Atlantic. That's Monday, looking cold, windy and showery. Showers probably wintry in northern and northwestern parts of the country. Again, a very slight little transient bump of high pressure there on Thursday the 10th of December. In comes the next low though. By the time you get through to Wednesday the 11th, we're back into really unsettled conditions, and then this low starts pushing southwards by day 10, which is Thursday the 12th of December. Heights are beginning to rise a bit to the north around Iceland. That's sending this low pressure southwards, so that looks like could be setting up a cold snap there. If we could roll on another day, which we can't, but if we could, we would probably find this low pressure setting up or going down towards Spain and the Bay of Biscay. This ridge would probably push southwards and take cold air southwards with it. So that looks like it's setting up a cold snap around or just after day 10. These are the precipitation forecast from that ECMWF run from tameteo.com. So there's going to be plenty of dry weather through the next few days away from the north. Scotland will have rain at times in the coming days, but many parts of England and Wales in particular will be staying dry up to the middle part of the week. Second half of the week, though, we bring some very wet weather into northern and western parts of Scotland, and that begins to push southwards as we go through towards the end of the week. So it's a Friday now. We're taking outbreaks of rain southwards across the country. Some of that quite heavy, you'll notice, even for England and for Wales. And once that pushes through, then we're into a genuinely unsettled pattern. So over the weekend, in comes the next batch of wet and windy weather to showers. That clears to showers early next week. Next batch of wet weather here coming in on the 10th of December. That's bringing more really wet weather with it as well. Could be a little bit of snow involved with that up across Scotland, by the way. That clears out of the way, and we're off into a showery sort of pattern again. As we get up towards day 10, we start to find that it begins to go a little bit drier as the colder air starts to push back from the north. So, yes, it's going to be unsettled for northwest parts of the country as early as right now, really, for the far north of Scotland. It's not till the end of the week that the whole country is turning unsettled. But once the unsettled weather starts up again, it looks like it's in more or less through towards day 10. Easy options are on the table within the ECM ensembles today for day 10, which gets us to the 12th of December, of course. So we have 21 members of the ECM ensembles, including the operational run, that's what I've just been talking about, that has a trough of low pressure over the country, beginning to push southwards as this ridge is developing out to the northwest. So unsettled and potentially starting to go cold with those 21 members by then. We have another 15 just here that have the low pressure a little bit further southwards. Again, we've got this mid-Atlantic ridge going up towards Greenland. They're bringing in a bit more of a north to northeasterly influence. They're very unsettled, but they are turning colder too. 8 just here with a trough of low pressure centred to our east. They will be bringing down cold winds from the north. And then these 7 here are a little bit more westerly, a little bit more Atlantic sort of type winds with those. So they're probably the mildest option that's on the table. But really most, or nearly all, ECM ensemble members are looking very unsettled at day 10. And quite a lot of them would be quite cold too, I think. 2 weeks' time, these are the options that we've got. This gets us to the 17th of December, 360 hours away. 18 members of the ECM ensembles, just really unsettled, low pressure centred over the country. 17, again, with low pressure over a little bit to the south of us. We are building up some heights to the north with those, so they're having a go at pulling in colder air from the north or from the east. And then 16 just here with low pressure out to our west. And they're unsettled again, but they would be a little bit milder as the wind is kind of like from the south to southwest. It looks like this could be a very unsettled December, I have to say. In line with the winter forecast that we released yesterday, of course, we did say that December is likely to be a very unsettled month with colder and milder interludes alternating. So from a winter forecast perspective, at the moment, the charts that we're seeing, not too bad for December, really. But early days, of course, on that. It's only the 2nd of December. Finally, CFSV2, so these are 500 millibar heights broken down to week periods. The first week period takes from the 2nd through to the 8th of December. The coming week is unset to our north. Lots of low pressure up to the north. But actually, for us, we're close to this ridge of high pressure. Bear in mind, this ridge does get broken down later in the week. So it starts off, yes, with high pressure dominating, but by Friday, we're all back to unsettled conditions again. And then very unsettled for week 2. This is the 9th to the 15th of December. Deep low pressure is over the country. The ridge has pulled out into the middle of the Atlantic. So not only is it unsettled, also quite cold, as we will bring the winds in from the north to northwesterly direction. There is a chance of a cold snap as we move up to the middle part of December. Then into week 3, this is the 16th to 22nd of December, still unsettled. Low pressure is driving in from off the Atlantic. Winds a bit more westerly with that, so rather milder as we're running up towards Christmas. And then week 4 is the 23rd to 29th of December. So over Christmas, we've got a ridge of high pressure to our southwest and low pressure is up towards Greenland. So that's trying to bring in westerly winds. But we also have this ridge building to our east. Now, it's not in a particularly good position to pull in cold easterly winds. So the cold air with that would actually go down to the southeastern part of Europe, really. But of course, as this ridge builds, because it's December, it could start to bring cold conditions in off the continent. So it might be a bit of a suggestion of something drier and perhaps frosty. Those type of conditions for the Christmas period. If we looked at the tomorrow's temperature anomaly, which I won't do, but if we did, it would say, I'm sure, much milder than average. But this sort of position for a ridge to be sent to kind of like Germany, Denmark, at this time of year will often bring in a southeasterly flow. And if that happens, of course, the continent very rapidly cooling down. If that happens, we might start to get frost, maybe fog, as we move up to and over Christmas. That's 4 weeks away, so it's a really long way out anyway. And as I said, we're going to do the 14th Christmas update tonight. But what we can say is that we're starting off relatively dry, particularly for England and Wales in the days ahead. It's going to be turning more unsettled through the week. In the north, we've already got a little bit of rain up in the north today. Things will gradually get more and more unsettled as the week goes on, so that by Friday we're all back into wet and unsettled conditions. And those very unsettled conditions will probably get even more unsettled as we move over the weekend into next week. And through next week, there is a chance that not only will it be unsettled, might start to turn colder. That will potentially increase the risk of snow, particularly for northern parts of the country as we're heading up towards the second half of next week. So, yeah, it could be next week is rather cold and unsettled with a risk of snow, particularly, I would have thought, up in the north. But if we pull those winds into the north for a few days, as the midnight GFS run did, then around the middle part of December we might all turn quite cold and maybe with a few wintry flurries around, we shall see. Right, we'll be back tonight at 7 o'clock with your 14th Christmas update. Tomorrow we've got the ECMWF 30-day look ahead. There'll be a week's 10-day video update. We're going to have to get the December forecast in as well, so I might be able to bring you back tomorrow. If not tomorrow, that will be on Wednesday. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.